In this section, we're going to create a layout of our own, an angle histogram. We're going to start with a sketch and end up with a pretty example of our new layout. Before you can make a layout, you need a working visualization. A sketch makes it easier to play around with concepts to figure out what you actually want to build and whether it's even possible. So we're going to use the UFO dataset just like we did in section 1, and this time we're going to play with the sightings per hour data. Arranging the histogram around a 24-hour clock looks better than a bar chart, I think. And making a specific example means you know your layout will be useful. We're going to start with a regular histogram, change its results to work with arcs, and finally copy our pie chart code to the drawing. Easy. First, we're going to need the dataset and prepare a simple environment to work in. Here's the dataset I prepared earlier, just like this was a cooking show. We'll look at using D3.js with random datasets in a later video, so for now just take this one. It lists all sightings of triangle-shaped UFOs going back some 40 years. Save it in the directory you're going to work from. We're also going to need a simple HTML file to hold everything in place, load our JavaScript files, and so on. Best bet is to just copy the one you used in the pie chart example and remove what you don't need. To start the JavaScript off, we set up an SVG drawing area and use D3.json to load our dataset. It's just an array of objects with some properties like the time of appearance, the state, the duration, city, and so on. One thing we do have to take care of are the timestamps. They're strings, but we'd like them to be date objects because that makes them easier to work with. We also want to ignore the entries without timestamps. Fixing this situation is simple. Go through data and parse every timestamp, filter out anything without a valid time, and make sure all times are date objects. We map through the data twice because date.parse gives us a timestamp and new date gives us a date object. I know, it'd make more sense if they were the same, but JavaScript. The best way to make a histogram of any shape, even a custom one, is starting off with the bundled histogram layout. This ensures we don't have to write our own binning code. I know it sounds simple, but it can get hairy, so it's best left as somebody else's problem. We define a value accessor that returns the hours part of every timestamp and ask for exactly 24 bins. Because there are 24 hours in the day. Running the histogram function gives us drawing data for a normal bar chart histogram. Tweaking it into a circle that's meant to be drawn with arcs instead of rectangles shouldn't be too difficult. We'll run through the data and add values that arc generators expect. A scale that maps values in the dataset to angles on a full circle will make it easier to define start and end angles. Scales are functions that map a domain to a range, by the way. Domain sets the from interval and range sets the to interval. Because we have a linear scale, the mappings are evenly distributed. We're going to make each value map to the middle of an arc by offsetting them by half the width. This makes the histogram look better because each slide sits right on top of its value. We also set a static inner radius and an outer radius which reuses whatever height the original histogram layout calculated for each bar. If you print the result, you'll see it's got everything we need. Each value holds the corresponding data points from our original dataset and all the metadata we need. We've essentially come up with a pie chart where slices don't have the same outer radius, but do have the same width. This means we can reuse our pie chart code from earlier to produce a crude drawing. We use the using layout function. Give it our data and remove all references to the pie layout because they're no longer needed. We can also get rid of titles and that outer radius setter. And there you go, a simple sketch of what we're aiming for. It's not the prettiest, but it does show that we know how to make an angle histogram. In the next video, we're going to generalize our code to make it reusable.